just what my pastor like to call a fireside chat concerning a particular topic, which is, of course, the ultimate price and sacrifice that Jesus has paid for mankind. And sometimes we take it for granted because we don't really understand the condition that we were in. And so the title of the Bible study is How Much Is This Man in the Women? You know, and so what I have taken that from is how people assign value to certain things. All of us in here have something that's dear to our heart that we pay for. Some of y'all like shoes, you know, some of y'all like cars or whatever. But when we look at something and we say, man, this is a value to me, really that determines how much you're willing to pay for it. You ever seen some people go and they have artwork and it looks like they just took a whole bunch of paint, threw it on the canvas, and this is beautiful. Look at this, the contour. I would buy this for $7,000. And another person will look at that and say, that is garbage, man. It looks like a bunch of paint thrown on the canvas. Well, it becomes valuable to that person who in their eyes is beautiful. So they're willing to pay the price for it, even if others think that it's ugly. A perfect example of that is you see the little dog that I have running around. Sophie, she's sitting in somebody's lap.
She over here.
Uh-huh. Come on down here. She don't love me anymore. Sophie. Ah, yeah, come here, girl. Yes. Big old guy with a little dog, right? All right. Well, this little dog right here is the apple of my eye, right? Now, what's
and
crazy?
You don't have kids, right? So that's
No, I don't have kids. But what's crazy about this is when I first went to pick up Sophie at the dog spot, the lady, Shih Tzus don't normally cost no more than about, you can get one for cheap, like $250. You can get one for about $500. This one costs almost $1,000. Now, initially, I was like, there's no way I'm paying $1,000 for no Shih Tzu, because I'm not even a Shih Tzu kind of love. I like big dogs.
Right.
But when she came up to me, she touched my heart. She was very friendly, and so I said, okay, let's make it happen. So I buy the dog, and I mean, I literally just fell in love with this dog, even though I got 4 other dogs. But something about this dog I love deep down. I don't know if I can love a human baby like I love this dog. However, one day I come home and I noticed some rat poison that was on the floor. Now, immediately I'm like, oh my God, I hope Sophie didn't get into the rat poison. She was about a year old or 2 at the time. So I take her to the vet, emergency room. I already know right off rip that's gonna hit me over the head. You know, it was like on a Sunday night. So I go into the emergency room and they like, yeah, according to the x-ray, she got a belly full of rat poison. And I'm like, golly, because rat poison, obviously, for whatever reason, I found out tastes good. So she eats all the rat poison, and I said, okay, so what's going to happen to her? He said, look, if we don't, you know, save the dog, if we don't get her to flush her out and all that stuff, she'll die. He was like, after a while, it's going to thin her blood out, she'll die. Now, it's a dog. I've had plenty of dogs that was on the way out, and I'm like, oh boy, it's been a great run, you know, especially when it came down to the chips. But because of my love for this dog, I told the doctor, or the vet, spare my dog's life at any cost. I don't care how much it costs to save this dog's life. Save this dog's life, period. Now to others, they might look at this dog and say, dude, it's a dog. Why would you pay that much money to save it? You can buy another dog. But to me, the value of this dog and the love that I have for this dog super exceeds the price that I had to pay for the dog. Same thing with the Lord when it comes to us. We're just human beings. We're human beings that are flawed. We're human beings that are wishy-washy. We're human beings that are sometimey. We're human beings that are sinful. All of these things, but Jesus Christ was willing to pay way and above, you know, the price to save us. And so, as we get into the Bible study, we just want to touch on some of those things. If you look at it, it says, how much is the man in the window? The one with the soul that was, or that is lost, actually. If a man does not know the Lord, that is the condition that they're in. Even though they have a soul, the real thing, the most valuable thing a human being has is their soul. And the question becomes, where will that soul spend eternity? Will they spend eternity in heaven, or will they spend it in hell? And so with that being, we have a dilemma when you look at it. So now it says, to appreciate Jesus' sacrifice, you must first understand your sinful, lost condition. Now, most people are not aware of this because we have an inflated view of ourselves. I know I did, and still, sometimes you find yourself having that inflated view of yourself. Our value of what we're worth sometimes super exceeds what it really is. When I was in the world, I thought that my poop didn't stink. I was like, man, I'm the man, I play football, everybody knows, care, blah, 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 blah. And I based my value off of popularity. I based it off of success, off of accomplishments, off of whatever. And I didn't really look and see what God valued. And what God is valuing is what's going on in your heart. What's going on in your spirit. How do you look at righteousness versus unrighteousness? How do you make your choices? All of these things is what God is looking at, whereas man, we're looking at the other stuff. I'm thinking, hey, if I'm successful, if I'm popular, if I'm in great shape, good health, all of that stuff brings value to me. And all of that is vanity. At the end of the day, I can have everything in the world, lose my soul, and realize that all of that stuff is garbage. And so when God looks at the person, he says, the most important thing that they don't even realize is at stake. Until God comes into your heart, until God reveals himself to you, until you come to the awareness of your condition, you don't realize the jeopardy that you're in. You don't realize the condition and the balancing act and how you're teetering on the verge of destruction. I break in my heart when I think about people who die with never knowing Christ, because that reality hits them that quick. Soon as you cross over, soon as you take your last breath, you can never go back and undo your choices. You can never go back and make another decision again. And if you died saying, man, I don't believe in none of that, all of a sudden you're hit with the worst reality you could ever face. And that is when they realize how valuable their soul was. And so God, knowing how valuable man's soul is, he decides to do something for man that man couldn't do for himself. Save his own soul. Now, when you look at this, you can't even save your own physical life. As much as we try to be careful and dodge raindrops and not step on cracks because you break your mama's back, not go around split poles and all that stuff, we are some superstitious people. We think that we can save or prolong our life by being careful and cautious. And the reality of it is if death comes to visit you, there's nothing you can do about it. You can sit back and I hope you have never had the misfortune of seeing a loved one pass away. I've had that. And I was literally sitting right there. And you're going, man, this is out of my control. All I can do is sit back and say, man, it's messed up. And when it comes down to your own life, if you ever talk to somebody who almost died, they say, man, there was nothing I can do. When my eyes start closing, I knew a guy that got shot. He said, when my eyes start closing, there was nothing I can do. He said, I was just sitting there thinking to myself, I'm dying. So now, if you can't even save your own physical life, surely you can't save your soul. So it has to be something greater than you that steps in and takes care of this dilemma that we're all faced with. So until a person realizes the dilemma, the danger, the jeopardy that they're in, that they can't really appreciate the sacrifice that was made. So now if you look at it, it says all men, first of all, here it is. It says all men are born in sin and subject to going to hell. Now I know a lot of people don't like to talk about that nowadays because we're politically correct. They're like, oh hell, you weren't scared to go to hell. You know, I mean, they get into all of that stuff. Some churches don't even mention hell anymore. I don't know how they were able to just wipe that part out of the Bible. But it is a reality, even if we don't like it. If you're going to be a Bible believer, if you're going to be a Christian, you have to contend with the bitter and the sweet. The bitter, of course, is nobody wants to go to hell. You know, we would like to believe that it isn't real. And if you ever read the book, A Divine Revelation of Hell, Mary Baxter, who claims that Jesus took her there and showed her some things, one of the things he said to her was, I must show you this because even my own people, even my own believers don't believe that hell is real. There's a lot of Christians who say, man, God, there's no way he would send us. No, he's a loving. Yes, he is, but he is also a consuming fire. He's a loving God, long-suffering, patient, forgiving, kind, all of those things, but he's a God that cannot lie. So now, when he says these things will send you there, unfortunately it will. But really, it wasn't designed for us. It was designed for Satan and his demons. So now, what happens is when man fell, that's the alternative that man has to deal with. And so God, loving us beyond measure, beyond our comprehension, decides to make a way out of no way for us to escape. So now, look, Romans 3:23 says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. So now this puts every human being on notice that you are in need for salvation. Now you can talk to some people who think they poop don't stink. You can talk to some people who say, man, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about. I ain't no sinner because I don't cheat on my taxes. You know, I ain't no sinner because I ain't ever killed nobody. And we base all of our righteousness off of the laws of the land. We base it off of facts and not truth. So what will happen is people say, well, I didn't do this, that's a fact. I didn't do that, that's a fact. But the truth could be in your heart, if you could have gotten away with it, you would have. And so when God looks at it, he's saying, those might be facts, but I'm looking at the truth. What goes on in your head, in your heart, when nobody's around? The places that nobody can see. And see, that shows the true you. Character is who you are when nobody's watching. And it's sad to say who we really is. We can't even tell, even our closest friends, the true thoughts that goes on in our head sometimes. You ever have one of them thoughts where you go, I can't believe I just thought about that. You know, I mean, if you could see every human being's thought, you would go, man, you was going to kill me? Like, you supposed to be my best friend. Yeah, you know, drunk the last bit of Kool-Aid. I mean, I was, you know what I'm saying? I literally was going to kill one. I thought about killing my best friend in college. It was crazy. He ate the pizza. I went out, we had kicked it that night. So I bought this pizza. I go out, come back in at 5 in the morning. Now, you ever been, like, waiting for this food? On the way home, I'm like, that pizza is, like, floating in front of my face. And I'm like, I can't wait to get home. Smash, man. I come in, my boy in a fetal position, sick, man. So I'm like, Rob, what's up, man? I said, some people downstairs, man, we're going to go down and play some Uno. You want to roll? No, man, I'm sick, man. I'm like, oh, for real? All right, man. I go grab my box, and it was light. I'm like, whoa. The box is too light. I'm like, wait a minute. You know, and then I heard the crust rolling around in the box. And I know I ain't leave no crust. Immediately, I opened the box, 3 pieces of crust. I'm like, Rob, did you eat my pizza, man? I was sick, man. Here, just take the money. It's on the table. He was so sick. And I'm standing over him like this, ready to fire into it. Now, he didn't even see that. But in my mind, I had like visions of choking my boy, you know. So I never told him. But the point is there are certain thoughts that will pop in your head, and it will really show some of the stuff that can pop up in your heart that God will look at and say, I saw that. Well, we'll go, but I didn't hit him. And he'll say, but you wanted to. So now, when we look at how God views man, we see that nobody can escape when it comes to judgment day, standing before God saying, I'm good. I'm good enough to make it into heaven. Because if he pulls back the covers, you'll see all of us got some bed bugs. All of us got a little dirt on us that if he wanted to, he could just wipe us clean right off grip. So now, you look at this and it says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. It says, all men were enslaved to sin and Satan. Now, I know a lot of people don't believe this. I don't serve Satan. I don't serve, Well, understand this. Satan has been dealing with mankind for 6,000 years plus. He knows that, okay, by now, we've gotten a little clever. So if he shows up, spitting and slobbering, and his head is spinning around, and these green stuff, we're going, oh, that's the devil. I'm not messing with him. So what he does is he says, okay, if you won't serve me directly, I will just create things, give things to you, put you in situations to where you will end up sinning or serving me indirectly. So now, you have to understand, with this, it says, all men were enslaved to sin and Satan. It says, John 8:44 says, ye are of your father. Now this is tough type scriptures right here. He's talking to the Pharisees and the Sadducees that are thinking that they're good to go. They're thinking, well, look at us. We walk around, we got our nice robes, we got our big hats, we got the big beards and the little curls that hang down, and we got the yarmulke, and we can roll out the scrolls and we'll read them, and we wash our hands before eating, and we, all of this stuff that man looks at, look, that's a righteous guy, that's a nice person. God's looking at it and saying, nah, but I see the wickedness in your heart. So Jesus, of course, reveals this, and he hits him over the head and lets him know that if you're not serving the Lord, you're indirectly serving somebody else. It says, ye are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. Now, understand this. This is what really drags all man into certain types of sinful behaviors. It's lust. It really comes down to this. Man wants to call his own shots. Who doesn't? I'm going to be 100% real. If God said, okay, guys, y'all can rewrite the Bible. You know, most of us in here would say, keep it just like it is. No, we don't go for real. Woo! All right, check it out. Kev would never, we would change it up to fit our needs, our desires. Because something in man wants to call his own shots. It's our own personal lust or desire. It says, he was a murderer from the beginning. Look how he drives home Satan. See, he paints Satan in such a horrific manner, so he showed people that when you align yourself up with him, this is really who you're partnering with. so it doesn't look cute. So it doesn't look like, well, that's my homie, he ain't that bad. Jesus straight up drops it on him and says, look, he was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of it. Now, we all know that Satan is a liar, but see, he's a clever liar because he mixes lies with truth. This is how he deceives the elect. This is how he deceives mankind, because he comes in and he says, okay, I know what the scriptures say, but. Soon as he puts the but there, everybody goes, maybe there's an alternative to it. You know, and so if he could, he would get the people to believe a lie. Like the world exists the way it is, and this is it. Not realizing that there is an unseen world that is more real than the world that we see. So now, the last bullet is this. All men were facing death. It says there are two types of death, a physical and an eternal death. Now, I know that this right here is disturbing. We all know we got to face a physical death. All right? Bottom line, it stinks. You know, man, I like to tell y'all I'm going to live forever, but every day I wake up and my hips and feet and everything is hurting when I'm walking. I'm dying. So at some point, I'm going to kick the bucket. It lets me know that. Well, I was joking with a guy yesterday about how when I was a young boy, how old are you?
25.
Oh, man, so blessed. You know, the most important thing is time. How old are you, man? Oh, man, like 22. Deuce? Yeah. Who the youngest in here? Vince, how old are you, man?
22.
You deuce? Yeah, okay, but 22, yeah, I would go out and I was still playing football at 22. I would get up, go out to a game without stretching, nothing. Just straight play. College football. Coach would be like, you guys need to stretch. Man, I ain't stretching, let's go. And it was good to go. Now I have to go through a full-blown ritual to work out. You know, sitting in the hot room, loosening the Bengay all over me. I'm like, oh, okay, it's time to work out. Whereas before, I just jump out there and go from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye. And it's showing me that the process of time is revealing to me that, hey, at some point you're going to be looking at your dad and going to say, this is me now. My old man is 75. And I'm going, wow, I remember he was my age. So time has a way of letting you know that, hey, you ain't here to stay. So we got to deal with that reality. But it's that second death that you want to make sure you have in place. The second death is this, the eternal death. Where will you spend eternity at? And it defines, unfortunately, hell as a death, a place where God is no longer present. Now, if you're talking about torment, it's not just the physical pain of death or the eternal death in hell that is going to really drive people nuts. It's that separation from anything that is good, anything that is beautiful. Look at the blessings that God gives us that we take advantage of. For example, a deep breath. To sit back and go, the sunlight coming in through your window in the morning and shining on your face. That first spring day where the birds is out and people bust out the toes. Y'all got the sandals on. Y'all like, girl, I'm going to put on my skirt today because it's hot. You know, that type of stuff. You know, meeting somebody for the first time, feeling that excitement. Like, oh, he was just so nice. All of this stuff. You know, hanging out with friends, laughing, just sitting and talking. All the little things that we take for granted is really blessings from God. Now imagine a place that is removed, all of that's removed. Simple stuff that we look at and take advantage of, like conversing. If he puts you in a place where you no longer can talk to the person next to you forever, you no longer can take a deep breath and say, fresh air. You no longer see beauty. You can't stop and look at a flower and say, look at the glory of God in that, and all this stuff. And so that is hell. It is the absence of anything that is of God. So all the beautiful things that he gives us, there isn't that, none of that in hell. So now, that is the second death. And so, that is the situational predicament that mankind was in. Romans 6:23. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. So now, here we are, mankind minding his own business, doing what he wants to do, not really paying attention to the Lord, not looking for the Lord. If you ask me, Kev, were you looking for Jesus? No. I was in Miami University having a good time. I was playing ball, I was popular, I was up there kicking it, having a great time. And God said, look at this knucklehead who have no idea the danger that he's in. I'm going to go and find him. And that's how he came and found me. So now, with that being said, here's what God did for us. It says, what was the price that was paid to save your soul? A life for a life. Now, that's right. I can't fathom this. I'm going to be real with you. I love all y'all in here. But if a bus is coming your way, and I'm going, okay, it's going to either be me or them. If I got a 70% chance it's a Bible, I'm giving it a shot. I'm like, come on, that out the way. But if it's a straight up look, man, Kev, you can save them, but you're gonna die. Ooh, I might be like, get out the way, Ashley! You know, nah, but I would give it a shot. But the full blown, I'm going to give my life for another person is a tough pill to swallow. Now I know we like to sit back and think in our mind that you'll be noble enough to do that. There are very few people in this world that you would die for and say, I know I'm gonna die and give my life for. You have a daughter, right? Now, that probably would say, you know, constitute something like that. Like, man, I'm gonna die for my daughter. But would you die for a criminal? Would you die for a dude on death row who just killed a whole bunch of people? Talking about, why don't you go ahead and lay down your life for me? You die. Ooh, nasty thing. Kill him, I'll pull the switch. You know? you probably like, I got this. But imagine the Lord who looked at mankind and he says, you know what? All of y'all are sinners. Not to mention, are you sinners, but you don't even appreciate the sacrifice that I'm giving. When he went to the cross, what really blew my mind is he was doing it in the midst of people spitting on him, people calling him names, people hitting him. To me, that blows my mind. I might die for a person who was humble and thankful and said, man, I appreciate what you're doing, man. This is it. But for somebody like, yeah, you better do. Yeah, man, you ain't nothing but, and I'm sitting back going to the lecture chair for them. That is ridiculous. But this is the love that God has for mankind, which blows our mind because we can't comprehend it. So he says, even in the scriptures, barely would a man die for somebody he loves versus dying for people who hate him. That's crazy. You know, I got some homies right now, man. I will go to bat for, but there's a limit to how far I'm going to go to bat for them. So now you have the Lord who sat back and he said, you know what? I see the condition that mankind is in. I see the fact that they're not even really looking for a Savior. They're so arrogant that they think they don't even really need a Savior. But I see the end from the beginning. I see the destruction that they're heading towards, and it's up to me to step in and save them. Perfect example of that is my dog Shakespeare. Shakespeare did not see, well, he's no longer here. Bless his soul. But Shakespeare was a Cocker Spaniel that I bought for my wife. And what was crazy is I take Shakespeare to the vet. I'm supposed to be taking him to the vet. I take him to the vet to get his shots, but because I was cheap, I didn't want to take him to the real groomer. So I asked the veterinarian, I'm like, y'all cut hair? They was like, well, we're not groomers, but I mean, we can shave him down. I said, well, do that. I said, shave him down a little on the side, take a little off the top. Shakespeare comes out butt naked. They shaved him down and left a big puff of hair right on top of his head. It was a full-blown afro, right? And I'm like, dude, man, what you doing to my dog? He's like, well, we told you we weren't. I'm like, oh, man. So she was my girlfriend at the time, right? So I was like, well, can I see them clippers? So they let me see the clippers. I tried to shave his little head down a little bit. So I bring him back like nothing happened. You know, drop him off like, there you go. My wife's like, what the heck? What happened to the dog? I'm like, I tried to shave him down. So she said, you know what? Take the dog with you until his hair grows back. So Shakespeare now was living in my house. So I'm riding down the freeway one day with Shakespeare, and I get out because I had a blowout. That's what it was, on 75. And when I open the door, Shakespeare jumps out behind me, runs out in the middle of 75. Now, all I see is, cars are everywhere. Shakespeare gets out there and realizes I'm in trouble. And he had enough sense to say, let me drop down and stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Because he was just froze right in the middle of 75 while cars are all over us. Do you know, without hesitation, even though I could have said, you know what, Shakespeare brought this on himself. Shakespeare should have stayed in the car. I told him, stay there. But because I love the dog, I ran straight out into the middle of 75 to get him without even hesitating about the danger. Not even processing the fact that, hey, it's a dumb dog, he shouldn't have ran out there. Not even processing the fact that it's just a dog. It's not worth that much. So now, what happens is, you look at the Lord and how he come to rescue mankind. He says, you know what? In spite of their stubbornness, in spite of their ignorance, in spite of their disobedience, I will still come to their rescue. And so now, we see in 1 Peter 1 and 8 and 19, it says, for as much as ye know that ye were not redeemed with corruptible things, meaning this, God did not redeem man, meaning provide a way of salvation with money. He didn't sit back and say, you know what, I'm going to buy your soul with some chips. I'm going to buy your soul with a couple bucks right here. I'm going to buy your soul. None of that stuff mattered to God. He said, let me go to the extreme. Let me redeem you. Let me save you through the ultimate sacrifice to show love. See, we might pay for somebody. Hey, man, if I can pay to get you out of trouble, I will. But if they say, nah, man, money don't work here. Give your life. That's the ultimate price. You know, oh, that's a steep price, right? That's all I got. You know? So now, here's the Lord. It says, for much as ye know, that you were not redeemed with corruptible things. Money and all that stuff, it fades away. Silver, gold, all these cars. If something happened right now in this world where we had to go back to our basic needs and survival, money wouldn't mean nothing to you. People be talking about something, here I give you a meal, so what? Can I eat it? You like, can I live in my car? No, we on the run. We need the basic needs. So all that stuff is garbage. It says silver and gold from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers. None of that stuff worked, but this is how he redeemed us. But with the precious blood of Christ, as a lamb without blemish and without spot. Now, what is that lamb? What is this sacrifice he's talking about? First of all, he identifies himself as a lamb. Why does he identify himself as a lamb? Because in the Old Testament, God told Moses and the rest of the crew, when y'all mess up, it requires blood. And because I don't want to kill you, I'm going to allow you to kill a lamb in your place. But the lamb had to be physically perfect. Now here you have the New Testament, and he says, Jesus now is that lamb. He's not but he's a man that is righteously perfect. He's completely holy, and it qualifies him to be a sacrifice for you all. So now he becomes that lamb, and it required his blood. Now imagine you coming to earth, and your whole mission, is to die. You ain't coming to kick it. I don't know about you, but I can't even enjoy myself if I know I can. Right now, we don't know how long we got to live, so we enjoy ourselves. But if somebody said you got 3 days, you ain't having no fun. Then people talking, girl, let's go to the mall. For what? You like, I'm about to die in 3 days, okay? I'm going to sit here and think about it. Yeah, you are concerned if they told you had limited time to live. You ain't thinking about the next joint. You ain't thinking about a job. You ain't thinking about nothing but the fact that I got X amount of time before it's time for me to die. So now, when you look at Christ, he knew that coming in the door. He knew that when he said, man, you know what? I've come to redeem y'all, and my whole mission is to die. Now, I know some of y'all, when I was a young boy, and I said, well, Jesus died at 33. I'm like, well, at least he got a little time on earth. 33 is so far away when I was 18, 17. Then I rolled up on 33 so quick, and I was like, dude, that is not a lot of time. When you, Antoine, you pushing 30 right now, brother. 27. Okay, 30. That's 30, all right? Real quick. Trust me, when I was 27, I was like, I got 3 more years. He said, right past me. I was like, whoa, I'm on the other side now, 30. So what I'm telling you is this. It comes so quickly that when I hit 33, the reality hit me of how short Jesus' life was on earth. And to know that, when you hit 30 and you're going, by the time I'm 33, I'm on the cross. Those last 3 years is flying by. When you don't want something to happen, time you're going to pass so quick. I remember this bully was going to beat me up at the end of school, right? And you know when you little, school takes all day. You sitting there like, man, how long is this bell? When you about to get beat up at the end of the day, ring, 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 ring. Okay, kids, get on the bus. I'm like, y'all ain't got nothing else to teach us? She put me on that bus. I'm like, how did this day go past so quickly? When you don't want something to happen, it comes up on you just like that. Needless to say, the Lord spared me from the bully. But here you have it. It says, but with the precious blood of Jesus Christ is a lamb without blemish and without spot, meaning he was perfect. That is the only thing that qualifies him as a sacrifice. Other men could not make that sacrifice for us because they had their own issues. If Kev has to die for you, I'm an unrighteous sacrifice. I hate to tell you this. If you dig, you'll find that I have flaws, many flaws. And even some of the best people had their flaws. Moses, as sweet as he was, couldn't have died for any of us because he was disobedient at the very end. All of these great men in the Bible had their problems to where God had to say, you ain't it. So what happens is God said, let me remain who I am and become who I'm not. Step down into eternity. Into flesh. You smell that?
Yeah, me too. That's why I was like trying
I know she
had my door.
She works bad, and she don't do this in the house. I'm gonna find it in a minute. So anyway, now here you have it, the price. 1 Corinthians 7:23. It says, "Ye are bought with a price, but not ye the servants." I'm sorry. It says, "But ye are bought with the price. Be not ye the servants of men." Did she?
No, she didn't jump in here.
Okay, all right. Be not ye the servants of men. Now, what does this mean? If you know that you were in a pickle and God bought you with a price, and I ain't talking about just any price, no money. I'm talking about with straight blood. He's saying, why would you serve men who can't do nothing for you? Why would you sit back and say, you know what, let me dedicate all my time, all my efforts into pleasing human beings that can't really do nothing for me? None of them could have saved me. But Jesus Christ saved you. And then he goes, okay, now, don't serve men, serve me, because I bought you with an ultimate price. So now, it says, Jesus bought you with his own blood, yet man wasn't worthy of the sacrifice of his blood. It's like paying $1 billion for a beat-up garbage car. Anybody got a car in here? Eh? You got one? Yeah, you got the one you want. What you want? If you could pick your car, what would it be? Cool talk?
No, Bugatti.
Bugatti? You know what? You got fine taste, girl. That's $1 million. A little over. Actually, it might be like 2-point-something million. Now, I understand the value of a Bugatti. That's the fastest car, one of the fastest production cars ever made. Okay? I could justify that. But if I pulled up in a Gremlin, okay, you don't even know what a Gremlin is. This backfiring, you know what I'm saying? You cut it off and it don't cut off on time. All of that stuff. Start it up and it don't start up when you want it. One of those, you know, you see the floor, you know, see the ground through the floor. Wait a minute. I'm talking, you know, rust all over that mug. You know, would you pay $2-3 million for that garbage? No. So now you're sitting back going, I don't see why God will come down and pay the price he did for mankind when mankind is so beat up. We so flawed. We have so much garbage in us, and he's going, but to me, you're worth it. But yet, in my eyes, I go, I wouldn't pay that much money for a piece of garbage car like that. And God looks at that car and says, you might see it as garbage, but to me, it's valuable. It's valuable enough for me to make the ultimate sacrifice. Same thing with mankind. God did that for us, and it just blows my mind. Ephesians 1:7, it says, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sin according to the riches of his grace. So now our redemption, our ability to even get back in the face of God and have an option to make it to heaven, all comes down to Jesus Christ's sacrifice. Nothing you can do, couldn't step in and negotiate, couldn't step in and counsel with him and say, hey, listen, why don't you hook us up on some salvation? None of that had anything to do with us. It is simply by his grace that he said, I'm a savior. You know, so now we were totally at the mercy and the grace of God. It's like somebody who's drowning out there and a person sitting on the shore saying, you know what? I can either save him or I can let him drown. It's up to me. And that person's going, I hope this person has enough grace in their heart to save me. And Jesus did. Huh?
It was the food out there.
It was the food. Do you mean that's food I'm not eating? 1 Corinthians 6:19. It says, what? Know ye not that your body, now check this out. Here's where it comes down to. We're talking about the great sacrifice that Jesus paid for us. How much is that man in the window? It says, what? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you? It says, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own. Okay, so now we see then that Jesus Christ and his sacrifice gives him the only person that can claim to have ownership to you. You know, when he sits back and say, man, I paid the ultimate price for you. When you know the Lord, you don't mind saying, I don't mind being ownership to you, giving myself over to you. It says, since Jesus bought you with his own blood, you belong to him. Now, I gave an analogy. The car that you purchase does not drive itself. It does not make the choices to go where it wants to go. You don't go outside and your car just started for no reason. You don't go outside in your car and say, yeah, I decided to take a ride around the block. You don't mind, do you? You know, when you get in your car, you drive your car, you control it because you're like, I paid for you, I bought you in my car, and I'm controlling it. Well, when Jesus comes into your life and pays the price for you, he's the driver. You no longer sit back and say, you know what, Lord, I know you're trying to make me turn left, but I'm going to go right. I know you sitting back saying stop, but I'm going to keep going through the light. You know, nobody wants a disobedient car. If your car ever got out of control, you know what I'm talking about. When you like turn, you ever get hit some snow or something, and you turn in the wheel, and the car's still going straight. Oh, Jesus, oh, you know, that is an uncomfortable feeling. You're going, I want you to do what I want you to do. So a car out of control is like a human being who Jesus says, I want to be in the driver's seat. I want to make the turns because I know with me on the wheels of steel, you're not going to get yourself in a pickle. But we want to go, nah, I know you're supposed to be driving, but I see some stuff over here I want to stop and see. I want to see some stuff over here I want to do. You know, a disobedient vehicle. And so now you see how Jesus Christ has said, let me drive the car, lest you keep going and crash. Titus 2:14, it says, who gave himself for us, that he might redeem us from all iniquity, and purify unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good works. Now, I love this scripture because it says, who gave himself for us, that he might redeem us from all iniquity. What is iniquity? Iniquity is that deep down, ground in sin that you ain't even aware of. See, there's some stuff you do and you go, I know that ain't right. But then it's that stuff that comes up out of you, out of nowhere. You go, where'd that come from? I didn't think I would do something like this. I didn't think I had this in me. I didn't think I was dealing with this on the inside. It's that sin that comes straight down through the bloodline, passed down from Uncle James, Aunt Ethel, or whoever. And you go, why am I acting like Uncle James? Uncle James was a knucklehead at the picnics, and here I am a knucklehead at the picnic. All of this stuff that is passed down that we're not even aware of, that built-in, ground-in sin, is called iniquity. You know, and so now, here's Jesus Christ is saying, I even paid the price for the iniquity. It's like that DNA defect that you're not aware of. You know, on the genetic level. You know, when you're sitting back like, man, without somebody really doing genetic type research, they wouldn't even know this was in me. And here's the Lord going, I see all of it. The deep stuff that you don't even see, I'm able to get down there and get that out. And so now, he says, redeemed us from all iniquity and purified unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good works. Now, what is he talking about? First of all, his death was in our place so that we could be free from the deepest, darkest sins and become a group of people set apart for himself in the midst of a sinful world. Now, you're talking about cool. He's saying, you know what? I understand that the whole world is a mess, but I'm going to pull together a small group of hardcore people and place them right in the middle of the mess and let them be a representation of my glory. So now you have all this darkness, and he calls the Christian, and he says, now be a light in the middle of all the darkness. And I know you outnumbered. I know you outmanned. I know you outgunned. I know all the odds are against you. But I put something in you that will allow you to survive in the midst of all of that stuff. Now that's crazy right there, because when you look at the odds, it's stacked up against the Christian. You know, it is crazy. You know what I heard today? And this is, I ain't going to bring that up. I'll talk about that. All right, it says, this redemption should cause every Christian to be excited about being righteous. So that last part of the scripture where it says, and purified us unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good works, that means that we're excited about being a Christian. We're excited about bringing forth righteousness and good works and spreading the gospel and telling everybody what Jesus has done for us. If you ever run into Jesus Christ face to face, it is hard to meet him and not talk about it, not share him with the Lord, and you really have met him. Surely, you're going to go out and you're going to tell everybody that I have met Jesus. You know, there is no other like him. So now, you look at that, we go out and we glorify God. Ephesians 1:13 and 14, it says, in whom ye also trusted after that ye heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, in whom also after that ye believed, you were sealed with the Holy Spirit of promise. Now, what are we talking about in all of this particular scripture? Look at this last verse. It says, which in the earnest of our inheritance unto the redemption of the purchased possession unto the praise of his glory. Now, all of this is really saying what? It says, what slave? Now, think about this. It says, in whom ye also trusted, after ye heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation. All right? In whom also after that ye believe, ye were sealed with the Holy Spirit of promise. Now, the analogy that I want you to really see is if you know anything about history, slavery, this was hard times for black people. You know, I sit back and I watched Roots. Some of y'all have never seen the movie Roots. You seen Roots? Behold, Kizzy, the only one greater than yourself. Yeah. Prior to Roots, black people didn't even know we were slaves. When I was a young boy, but when I was a young boy, I had no idea the severity of slavery. When Roots came out, I was in probably like the 4th grade, 3rd grade, something like that. I remember seeing it on TV like, what? They did this to us? You know, and my brother was one of the radical. He just went out and started beating up white people in school. Like, you know what you did to us? Like, that wasn't me, dude. Wasn't my ancestors. It was horrible, man. They started like full-blown riots after Roots came out. You know, however, it brought brought the awareness to us back then of how horrific slavery was. To put them up on that block and have some dude rubbing his belly talking about, I give $5 for her. And you're going, that's my worth, that's my value. And you know what that person has for you. You know the intention. You can see it in the eyes. Like, I got plans for you. And you're going, oh, I'm about to be sold to a wicked, evil slave master that's going to abuse me and use me. Now imagine you being in that condition, especially if you was a big brother. They really did, I mean, you big old swole up cat, like me, it'd have been a rap. I'd have been considered a mandingo. And you know what they would do to them cats? One sign of disobedience with a big black man, they would take him in front of all the other slaves, tie him up to 4 horses and rip him into pieces. And tell everybody, look at this. So this way, if y'all want to put your trust in the black man, that's what you put your trust. That's what's going to happen to anybody else. Now that is not a lifestyle that anybody would want to face. So if somebody came along and says, look, I'll buy you. And when they buy you, they say, I'm buying you so I can free you, so I can let you go. You know, you would be crazy saying, nah, forget that, don't buy me. I'm cool. Let this dude buy me with the straw in his mouth. Yeah, let me buy you. You know, you're like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble when this cat buy me. Well, it's the same thing with the Lord. Here he is going, every person that does not accept Christ, he's going, I will buy you out of sin. I will sit back and free you from the devil. I will free you from potential hell and all of these other things. I will buy you and set you free. And people all over the world every day says, nah, I'm cool. I'd rather let Satan go ahead and buy me and use me up and abuse me and do what he wants to do. And that's what happens when a person does not know the Lord or they reject him. Jesus bought us to free us from sin, which, quote unquote, equals salvation. Save mean, now I love this, save mean to be snatched violently out of danger. You ever have somebody about to walk off the curb and hey, and you snatch them back? You know, you say they like, whoa, I'm glad you snatched me. You ain't talking about, don't be grabbing me all hard. Like, you don't care. You like, man, you just saved my life. You ain't thinking about how rough they had to pull you out of the potential danger. You know, when somebody is drowning, if I reach in, I snatch you back out of the water, you ain't gonna be talking about, next time you be a little more gentle. You're gonna be like, man, I don't care how rough you had to be with me, you saved my life. It's like the beatings that you took when you was little. Some of y'all didn't, but I took them. And now that I'm older, I'm going, as bad as they were, those beatings saved my life. They were violent. My mama went in on me. She was physical. And now that I'm older, I go, man, those beatings kept me out of the penitentiary. So now I appreciate those beatings. I'm not going, well, you know, little reference. No, I'm like, I deserved it and she saved me. So it's the same thing with the Lord, to snatch you violently out of the hands of the enemy. When the devil is going, man, I'm about to consume this person. I can't wait to get their soul down here. And the Lord steps in and says, not this one, and snatches you out. You ain't going to be talking about, get off me. You know, you're going to say, get me out of this mess. Same thing when it comes down to the Lord offering his salvation, snatching us violently out of the hands of the enemy. His death and our faith in him is our down payment. Y'all just walk in front of the camera. It's our down payment to heaven. So now when you accept him, when he comes into your life, it's his deposit. It's his down payment saying, look, I'm coming back for you and I'm putting my deposit in you so that when I come back, you one of the people, when you hear that trumpet, you getting up out the grave if you're dead. If you're not dead, you getting snatched just like that. Now ain't that going to be a cool day when you hear that trumpet? Who was in here a couple weeks ago when the alarm went off? Everybody, we were in there in the midst of talking about the rapture, and it was like, yeah, that was tripped out. But it's going to happen just like that, though. You know, when the Lord comes, if he has put his deposit, his down payment in you, I don't care what you're doing. V, you could be on the football field going for the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. The ball is up, beat out. Oh, he just disappeared. Just like that. You ain't going to sit back and wait.
His uniform.
Right, yeah, uniform, your helmet. The Lord is not going to sit back talking about, so I'm going to prolong the rapture for a couple minutes so he can win the Super Bowl. No, he's going to say, man, whatever you're doing at that particular time, if you belong to him, you gone. And so that is what makes us go, I'm excited about that. You know. So now it says, on our way to heaven, we are glorified. We are to glorify him and his works of salvation. By what? Number one, spreading the gospel so that others can be saved. Now, when God buys you, when he frees you, how could you know that everybody else is still potentially on the slave chopping block and not tell them how to get free? I love Harriet to the Tub. She was a rough sister. Heading to the tub was rough, man. She was rough in every area. She was tender to the eye. You ever seen a picture of her? She looked like, hey, I ain't here for the beauty contest, okay? She was a rough little sister. And she was grimy enough to say, you know what? When I get up out of here, I'm going to come back and get a whole bunch of other people. And anybody who betrayed them and decided to go back, she pulled out the gun like, you go back, I'll kill you. You know, that's how important freedom was to her and salvation. She's like, you can mess up and kill us all by you going back. So I got to make sure, and that's how serious salvation was to her. Same thing with the Lord. He said, you know what? When I save you, and you see everybody else still in slavery, your job is to go back out and pull them out and tell them, man, you got to come home. Because if you go back, you're going to kill yourself. It's a wrap for you. So now you look at our job as Christians. It is very disheartening when we won't share our faith with others. However, when you look at doing that, it's done out of love because we get no glory from it, except for the Lord. I don't get glory, I don't get money from coming and teaching Bible studies, none of that stuff. It is simply to say, Lord, hopefully somebody will believe. Somebody will be free. Somebody will come up out of it and say, man, I'm glad we done made it over to the promised land and I can look back and go get somebody else. When I got saved, I told every football player I played with. I mean, and trust me, they wasn't trying to hear it. I mean, I went back, yo, fellas, man, guess what? I got something else I want to talk to y'all. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know Jesus? I mean, they were so quick to reject that. All those girls, I was like, yeah, I love you, don't you? Why you back? And I went back to tell them about Jesus. Oh, hold up. I want a good guy, but not too good. You know? I mean, I ain't trying to be at church all the time, though. I mean, it was amazing how they rejected me, and I would think like, yo, man, I'm a different guy, I'm a nice guy now, and I ain't no, I'm trying to holler, I'm trying to spit some real love to you,
right.
And they don't want to hear that. They want to hear the superficial love. They want to hear all the fluff and, you know, appeal to their flesh. But I'm trying to appeal to their spirit, and they ain't want that. And it was crazy to me because I thought that would make people say, man, he's a changed man, he's different. Let's, you know, and their first reaction was, too much, man. You know, and so it is, you know, so you have to understand that people are not going to willingly just say, I'm ready to believe everything you're spitting to me about Jesus Christ. So for us to go back and do it, it's driven by the love of God. It's like Moses when he went back to get the people out of Egypt and they rejected. Here he is going, man, come on, y'all, let's go. And they're like, man, Moses, man, I ain't trying to leave you. They almost wanted to be in slavery. You know, and so it's disheartening. It's going, man, I'm doing everything I can to get you out of this, and you over talking about some, you gotta get in this car. You know? So the same thing with the Lord. We spread the gospel. We can glorify him by doing that. Number one, working the works of Christ on earth. Now, what do I mean by that? Jesus Christ said, when I split, greater works will you do. That means you're going to spread this gospel further than I could when I was on earth, and you're going to back up the gospel with works. What do I mean? Showing love, laying hands, casting out demons, praying, all of that stuff that we do, that he did, we're also doing. Then, of course, number three, glorifying him through praise, worship, and a holy lifestyle. This is how we say, Lord, you bought me with a price, and I'm giving myself back to you. I'm showing you that I'm grateful for the price that you paid for me, and I want to glorify you by these things, by giving you praise, by worshiping you, by giving you a holy lifestyle. Go ahead, scroll down. We see then, how much is the man in the window? Okay, the one with the soul that was lost. He was worth Jesus Christ giving up the greatest sacrifice that any human being can give up, their life. Now, I look at myself and I say, man, sometimes I don't feel worth that much. When you look at your own flaws, even as I sit back and I teach this lesson, I have to do some self-evaluations and say, you know what? Even after knowing God's sacrifice, the things that he's done, the price that he paid, we still have a tendency to take it for granted. That's what breaks my heart about it. That is the character flaw in all of us. We can sit back and say, thank you so much, but then I still got some stuff that might disappoint you. I still got some stuff that might make you want to go, and it's disheartening. All we can do is say, Lord, help us to glorify, help us to come to that realization that you did something that nobody else can do. You the one that stepped in when I was in the middle of being burned alive and you snatched me out of the fire, you know, and because of that, I want to do everything I can to love what you love and to hate what you hate. And to allow you to be in that driver's seat, saying that, make a left, and you don't even kick against it. If you ever ride a horse, you have to understand the nature of the horse. That bit, you know, at first that horse is like, yo, I don't want to be controlled. You're not going to tell me which way to go. They put that bit in their mouth, just a slight turn, and that horse does whatever the owner or the rider wants it to do. Same thing with the ox. When you put the yoke on their neck, you know, they control them with that yoke. Or even my lovely little Sophie who's running around here. When she first started learning how to be on a dog leash, she had to understand that I bought her. You know, and at first it was like, I don't want to do what you want me to do. I want to go where I want to go and do what I want to do. Until I had to go, let me drag you along because I know best. If I let you go, you run down the street. If I don't do this, you might not think, you might think, well, I don't want to be all stay. You ain't good. But a person, like when you look at God, he's looking at us and he's going, but you don't know what's best for you. And I know you think you do, but really I do. So let me drive. You let me drive, and you'll be fine. You drive, you mess it all up, trust me. All right. Now, this is, of course, the last day, and I'm sure that everybody is studying for finals or have gone home. You know, so we will reconvene, I believe, next year.
September.
September.
Probably like September 7th. Probably 17th. Probably.
September 17th.